Welcome back to another Reddit deep dive episode where we take a closer look at some of Reddit's most interesting posts. A big thank you to our channel members who help make this possible. You can become a member by clicking the first link in the description, but you can also support the channel by simply subscribing and leaving a like. Now that that's out the way, let's dive in. Our first post comes from the r/internet mysteries subreddit and was posted by a now deleted user on November 24th of 2020. What happened to user Shady Business 15? Was he fake? Was he actually being spied? In 2013, a Reddit user by the name Shady Business 15 posted an image of a component of their damaged extension cord on the subreddit r/whatisthisthing. He explained that the extension cord had violently blown a fuse, and after taking it apart in an attempt to discern what had happened, he found a mysterious device. The image posted of the device showed a SIM card attached to something that many users on the subreddit pointed out was likely being used for surveillance. The user then proceeded to move the investigation over to r/RBI, seeking more information. People there were quick to point out that the device included a microphone and was almost certainly being used by someone to monitor the user. What remains a mystery to this day is who was spying on Shady Business. He claimed his parents were adamant that they had nothing to do with it, and without a warrant, they were unable to find out any record of the calls made by the device. He was never heard of after this. What might have happened to him? The OP also provided links to Shady Business's posts, starting with the one on r/whatisthisthing that was posted on April 30th of 2013. Violently blew a fuse in my extension cord, took it apart to see the damage, and found this inside. This post was pretty straight to the point, and included a link with multiple pictures of what appeared to be some kind of device inside the extension cord. Everyone in the comments definitely seemed to believe this was some kind of listening device. Your extension cord is a room bug. Somebody calls the phone number on that SIM and the extension cord auto answers and listens to the room. Spooky. I've Googled it and figured it's some kind of spying device. But any ideas on how I can get more information about how it got there and who put it there? Shady Business also cross-posted this onto the RBI, where commenters were able to provide links to the exact same device that was inside their extension cord. It's a GPS tracker with a cellular uplink. Why is it in there? Edit. As others have found, this unit, the 900D, does not in fact have GPS according to the manufacturer. The 908D does. Looks like the seller here just copy and pasted the description. So no university studies on the migratory patterns of wild power strips, unfortunately. As user JetRink found though, there is a microphone, so this is definitely a covert listening device. These commenters are talking about the SIM 900 card. The link to the Alibaba page where you could purchase this was thankfully gone, but with the Wayback Machine, I was able to pull it up where we can see they come from China and are sold from a seller named Mrs. Lucky Chen. There's 2 to 3 days shipping, and scrolling down, we can see all of the tech specs and even antennas. If we read the product description, SimCom presents an ultra-compact and reliable wireless module, the SIM 900D. This is a complete quad-band GSM GPRS module in an SMT type and designed with a very powerful single-chip processor integrating AMR 926 EJS core, allowing you to benefit from small dimensions and cost-effective solutions. Furthermore, the SIM 900D can be compatible with SIM 340DC. Featuring an industry-standard interface, the SIM 900D delivers GSM/GPRS 850, 900, 1800, and 1900 MHz performance for voice, SMS data, and fax in small form factor, and with low power consumption. With a tiny configuration of 33mm by 33mm by 3mm, the SIM 900D fits almost all the space requirements for your M2M applications, especially for slim and compact demands of design. I know this might sound like gibberish to some, myself included, so I looked up what GSM and GPRS meant, according to this website. The term GSM is an acronym for Global Systems for Mobile. It is a type of cellular standard for communication over mobile devices. It caters to data delivery and mobile services by making use of digital modulation wherever SMS has an effect on society. The term GPRS is an acronym for General Packet Radio Service. It is basically an upgradation of the features of GSM. It allows a user to obtain a much better speed of data and provides them with simple and wireless access to packet data networks as compared to the standard GSM technology. I personally have never heard of a power cord that needed any form of cellular service, so we can safely assume that this is in fact a listening device. But as to why it's spying on shady business is still unknown. Maybe he bought this device on accident from some kind of garage sale or a second-hand shop without knowing this device was inside. But maybe someone either gave it or planted the device in shady business's home without their knowledge, and they unknowingly integrated it into their life. Fortunately, we did get a second update from Shady on May 1st. Update/info. Went to sleep last night and woke up to being r/bestofed. And now, top of the subreddit. Thought I'd post this thread to give you guys updates and clear anything up for people who haven't seen my comments. First of all, here are all the pictures I've taken so far. For the people wondering what inspired me to open up the extension/power strip in the first place, I had to wait for maintenance to reset the fuse in my room, and it took them about 2 hours, so I wanted to see the extent of the damage. In regards to suspicious helicopter parents, it's still not ruled out, and not sure if there'd be anyone wanting to spy on my parents. Law enforcement is unlikely. I don't think I'm that interesting, and it seems to be something you can purchase readily online. The SIM card is currently in an old phone, but no phone calls yet. I'll provide any updates on that front in here. Any more suggestions are welcome. SIM card forensics tools, or even just suggestions on where else might be a good place to look in case there's any similar devices around. Thanks for the comments, everyone. Like Shady said, a lot of Redditors seem to believe that his parents could be behind this. Have you called and asked your parents if it was them? If not, do it. Tell them you found the bug and are seriously creeped out. Explain that this is their one chance to admit it before you contact the cops. Tell them that you are going to pursue the case to the fullest extent of the law. If they didn't do it, they have no reason to lie. If they did, that should scare them into admitting it. If they don't, and you go to the cops and it is them, they deserve to be punished. Tell your parents you're having a party in your room around midnight. I bet they will call the SIM card. This post was soon followed by an update as well. I called, and an automated message said, "This service is now closed, and if you have voicemail, you can turn it on." Nothing interesting. Didn't get the last number called in. I created an account on the O2 website, and the only information I got is that there has been no top-ups in the last 3 months. I called O2, and they said they could not give me an incoming call log. Would need a warrant, but I don't want to get one. Is there any way to get the incoming call logs off the phone? Also, how does the 6 months no outgoing calls charges means the activations of SIM work? As I left for uni in the beginning of October, and it's now May, but when I put the SIM in the phone it worked. Is that possible, as no one had made any outgoing calls? Or did it reactivate for me putting it in the phone? Extra pics of the possible microphone. These are the pictures of the microphone. Whatever is going on is very weird to say the least. And what makes things even weirder is that not long after this, Shady Business's account just stops uploading completely. There is the possibility that Shady just logged off and did not return to Reddit after getting the answer they needed, but the timing of everything just adds to the mystery. The last comment Shady made came from this thread. You do need to establish the history of that particular power strip. Was it bought secondhand or borrowed from someone? It's possible that the bug was intended for someone else and it's nothing to do with you or your family, and just happened to end up in your possession through being lent out or mislaid. Yeah, it is. SIM card is in a phone to see if it rings. What happened? Check the number on both parents' phone. Wasn't stored, so nothing right now. After this, Shady Business goes completely dark. Now, back to the new post asking about Shady. The top comments under this one went like this. Honestly, not sure how standardized surveillance equipment would be across the world, but common sense tells me that if he posted this then vanished, the most likely scenario is probably him being in prison right now. Maybe not in prison, but something definitely not good. He did not even ask his parents about it, or anyone in fact, but just disappeared. I also don't think anyone would go that deep only for some internet points. If his parents had fallen prey to industrial espionage, why did he never ask them and update us? If he actually contacted someone who knew about this and told him to get off the internet and not write any more posts about that, why did he leave his account and those posts behind? And Someone buying transmitters, a SIM card, and microphone, then assembling them in an extension cable and blowing the fuse, then opening it up, taking lots of pictures only to get upvotes on Reddit is extremely close to impossible. His disappearance is the only wrong thing in the first theory. It has now been over 10 years at the time of this recording since Shady posted online. And with no answers, we can only hope that he just moved on. But if he was being spied on, I wonder what for. Maybe he was doing some illegal activities that he didn't mention. Or maybe his parents were just that overbearing. And hopefully, him discovering the device didn't trigger some form of reaction from whoever it was that could have been on the other end. Now, I know every family has drama, and some more than others, but there's nothing like suddenly unlocking a memory and discovering that you might have a long-lost twin sibling out there, an experience that a now-deleted Redditor would share with us on the RBI subreddit on January 4th of 2021. I think I have a twin. First, I want to share some suspicions I have. Second, I know this will sound like the plot of The Parent Trap. Please don't write me off. Let's start with the basics. Dad left when I was 3. From what I've gathered, it was a non-violent yet ugly situation of loathing between the two. Mom has only talked about it once, and I suspect she regrets telling me. I am a 24-year-old male, by the way. My earliest 2 memories include a girl. In the first, we're in a room in my maternal grandparents' house, deciding that we're shy and don't want to talk to people. So when they ask our age, we simply hold up 3 fingers. I never forget that moment, partially because I think it's the first time I've ever held up 3 fingers at the same time. But she was there, a girl. I've ruled everything out. My grandmother's peers, neighbors, none of them had kids at that age. There's simply no reason for this girl to exist. She's in another memory, a similar one, probably from the same time. This was one I forgot until recently. I work in marketing now. There's an old sports center with 2 soccer fields/hockey rinks and a gym. In addition, there's offices, old arcade games, a place for concessions, and a daycare center. They've been closed for a while, but we're planning a big upswing pre-COVID. Our agency was going to give them a push, and I visited a little under a year ago to take some stills. As soon as I walked in, the memory hit me. My grandmother dropping us off at the daycare center inside. Us. I remembered it so vividly. Most of the lights were off, so the indoor fields looked like a dark ocean. The gym lights were on, and she must have been going to physical therapy, and she dropped 2 of us off. I know it was the girl from my 3 memory. It stuck with me, but I didn't chase the thought. It just must have been some girl. After all, there's no pictures of her, and no family member had ever brought it up. Then again, it's the exact same situation with my dad, whoever and wherever he is. Could he have taken her and my mom got me? I want to pursue this because one of the last things my grandmother ever said to me before she passed last fall sent chills down my spine. She was talking through the window of her home, and I was masked up, keeping a safe distance. She knew things were winding down, and her mind wasn't very sharp anymore, but she said, "You've grown so much. You were so small back then. Both of you were." I instinctively replied, "Both who?" But she recoiled from answering, as she remembered not to say anything. We helped clean her house after she passed away, Mom and I dug through some photos I'd never seen, but didn't tell me anything new, except for the same girl in the background of 3 of them. She's in the swimming pool, running in the park, and searching for Easter eggs at church. Is it her? I don't know. There's no pictures of my dad, and if they wanted to keep my potential sister a secret, I can understand she wouldn't be in any. But would it be possible that my grandmother kept some, where she was slightly in the picture, whether intentional or not? What should my first step be? Talk with my mom? I don't know. I don't want to seem crazy to her. I have a stepdad, but we're not close, since he came into the picture when I was a preteen. Who knows if he knows anything? I imagine my dad and sister are out there somewhere. Do you think I have enough to support that belief? I can't even begin to imagine what must have been going through the OP's mind. If that were me, I would definitely be freaking out. The top comment came from the user SquirrelGirl313 with some pretty straightforward and simple advice for how the OP could get their answer. Do you have your birth certificate? There should be a box indicating if it's a birth of 1 child or multiple. Some of the replies under this comment went in both directions, with some Redditors stating that their twins' birth certificates mentions nothing about them being twins, and others saying their birth certificate does identify that they are twins. I could not find anything that either confirmed or denied if birth certificates usually state that info, but from what it looks like, I would say that it depends on the region. Regardless, the OP would provide an update stating they would check the certificate to see if they could find anything out. Update. First thing I'm working on is my birth certificate. If it tells me I'm one of one, I'll casually ask my mom who the girl in the photo is. Thankfully, it only took the OP 5 days for them to come back with an update and an answer to the mystery. Can't thank everyone for the support and for the overwhelming agreement that I should pull my birth certificate. Once I had free time to do so, I got the copy. Sure enough, I'm one of one, no twin. The girl from my memories and possibly the photo still nagged at me. Enough was enough, and I decided to do what many of you also suggested, an honest talk with my mom. I got the chance to sit down with her over dinner. It was tough convincing her not to bring my stepdad, but with my girlfriend out for the night, I managed to convince her it could be mother-son time. Then I hit her with the question, do I have a sister? Her reaction wasn't what I expected. It was almost like she was glad. Why do you ask? I told her everything I told you guys, my memories, Grandma's slip-up, and I showed her the photos we took from Grandma's house. She was silent for a second. That would be your half-sister. She asked if I was ready, and told me the whole story of her and my dad, filling over the gaps and, well, it's kinda shitty. My mom and I were a second family. My dad and half-sister's mom were married, and were family friends. Dad cheated with my mom, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. My half-sister and I were born within a month. Mom knew we were on the side and continued to go along with it, and my grandmother would babysit both of us. This is the time where all the memories and photos came from. When I was about 3, my half-sister's mom got wise to the truth and insisted her family move away and cut off all contact. Obviously, that's exactly what happened. Mom wasn't happy as she liked the arrangement and took it like a bad breakup. Mom and Grandma were the only ones who knew who my dad was and decided not to tell me. In a bit of not shitty news though, he's allegedly been financially supporting us the whole time. Just a bit here and there, but enough to make my life as comfortable as it was. Then my mom told me their names. She wants to be left out if I try to make contact, but I'm not sure I will just yet. That's a personal thing to figure out, and I think I'll take my time. But some social media searching led me to my half-sister's profile. I broke down in tears when I saw it, because even 20 years later, I recognized her. So she's not my twin, but my half-sister is out there, and she's exactly who I remember/thought she was. Thank you for all the support. I was really happy that the OP got an answer, but despite it being good news, this discovery somewhat complicates things for the OP. A user by the name MBearingR would explain this excellently. It's my fervent wish for the OP that it would be a happy reunion, if/when he reaches out, but I'm concerned this process could be a bumpy one. Given that her mother insisted they leave the area and cut contact, there's a good chance that his half-sister has no idea about her family's infidelity, let alone that he had a second family. There's also no way to know without him asking why his father chose to not be present in his life for so many years, and hearing why may be challenging, even with the best of intentions on all sides. None of that is the OP's responsibility to manage for these people. In my opinion, he's totally innocent and entitled to reach out if he desires. However, walking into such a situation could be rough on him. My hope would be that he got some solid support behind him when/if he reaches out. Having a therapist to help with thinking out this process and how to best care for himself through it can be really helpful. Just want to wish you lots of luck and say that I'm proud of you for pursuing the truth. This is true. The OP has no way of knowing if his half-sister even has memories of him, or if she has any clue of the truth behind her parents' relationship. Contacting her and his father could open up a can of worms in their family's lives, and possibly even reignite past grudges that the family tried to move past. This is definitely a lot to take in, and a huge burden to bear for the OP, though I would assume that the OP's father and their partner must have thought of the possibility of this happening down the line. You can't just pretend like a person you brought into this world never existed, and will never get curious enough to find out who their birth parent is. This last post was the conclusion to the OP's mystery, but the story didn't end there, because 11 months after they got their answer, the OP came back to the sub with one last and final update. Hey, it's the guy who thought he had a twin sister, but discovered he was actually part of a second family. It's been an interesting couple of months. Well, where did I leave off? Not long after I discovered the identities of my biological dad and half-sister from my mom, my stepdad sat me down. It was pretty generic. You're my stepson, yes, but you're a son to me stuff. Like I said in a previous post, he's a good guy, we're just not the closest. He looked like he wanted to say something else. However, he lingered, opened his mouth, then closed it. He left my room with a polite nod, and that was that. I didn't pay it too much attention at the time. Here's some important background on my stepdad. He started dating my mom when I was 12, and then got married when I was 15. Like my mom, he doesn't do any social media and holds a steady job. He's a middle-of-the-road normal guy. I never thought he'd have skeletons in his closet too. See, I have my mom's last name, and in a sweet move, my stepdad took our last name when they got married. I'm the one joining the family, he would say. He's one of the nicest guys I've met. More on that later. My mom told me a bit more about the arrangement with my dad when he moved away with his wife and daughter. She said that my dad supporting us financially wasn't as simple as him mailing a check every month, but she didn't elaborate too much. So, I have access to the names and contact information of my biological father and half-sister. They live on the other side of the country and seemed pretty normal. With a lot of nervousness and doubt, I decided to reach out. I'll spare you the whole process. A couple of texts, a couple of days pass, Dad and I have a video call, and then, when it seems like an awkward foray was coming to an end, how about I fly you out here? Lots of soul-searching and mental preparedness later, I set across the country to meet my, as I've been calling them, half-family. I was shocked. My dad was like me, a huge nerd and collector. His wife was very nice, and even took me aside one time to share that she had no ill will towards me, and not even much towards my mom anymore. She apologized for being the one to keep me from my dad so long, but I let her know she wasn't to blame. And my sister and I have become best friends in the past 6 months. The headline here is, she remembered me too. She has several more memories than I. She can't remember the 3 thing, but she remembers the daycare at the indoor athletic facility and told me about riding the little battery-powered 4-wheelers at Grandma's. I remembered it as soon as she said it. We are twins and all but mothers. We've become pen pals, discussing our families and what our growing up experiences have been. And, it turns out, it's a good thing I had her for support when what happened. I visited their home in the Pacific Northwest this summer, when there was an insane heat wave. They have no AC in their home, so the house was consistently reaching 90 degrees. We're sitting around one night, my half-family and I, sweating on the deck. The sun had sunk behind the mountains, and we were sharing some beers and telling stories. Dad was telling a story about the day he skipped school while his brother went to school, and Dad got away with it because his brother signed his attendance sheet. My dad's wife said, "Your stepdad has always been punctual." And my dad said quickly after that, "Yeah, we all know that. Even you." We all kind of froze. My sister looked just as confused as me. My dad's wife stared silently into her glass, and my dad sighed. "Yeah, I didn't know how to tell you about this part. I was thinking he might want to." Here's the shocker. So way back when my half-family left, my dad had his brother, my uncle, take care of the family, bring by groceries, and fix up the house. He helped us out a lot, and for the first decade of my life, he was kept distant from me. But then, him and my mom fell in love. I was a preteen when I was introduced to him as my mom's boyfriend. My dad was shocked by the relationship and cut off contact. So, my uncle married my mom when I was 15. Once I was sure everything was finally out of the blue, I think I was okay. My stepdad/uncle and my dad don't really talk anymore for obvious reasons. I had an enjoyable rest of my visit, but dreaded coming home to confront my stepdad. Uncle? God, I wish you all could have known how I felt. Once back, I sat my mom and stepdad down. "I know you're my uncle." Just like every other problem I've had over the past year, it resolved much more easily than I could have imagined. I begged my parents, all of them, to tell me everything I don't know. I'll keep personal conversations personal beyond this story, but for the first time in my life, I know everything about myself. I know it's messed up. I was part of a second family. Grandma forced to keep secrets, not knowing my real dad, or even the existence of my half-sister, and my stepdad being my uncle. But I've turned out okay. I'm in a steady relationship and have a good job, and I'm barely in my mid-20s. I've learned valuable lessons from the mistakes of my loved ones, and I want to leave you with this. My parents have had the weight of the world on their shoulders for 20 years. In the past couple of months, we've found cathartic healing and a stronger bond than ever. Forgiveness is in the air. I like to think my grandma knew this would happen eventually. So don't keep secrets from your loved ones. But if you have some currently, approach the situation deftly and honestly. Times will be tough, but the light at the end of the tunnel is relieving. I'm not confused anymore. My family has doubled in size, physically and emotionally. For the first time ever, we'll continue to grow as one. And that was that. An insane ride. And I can only imagine the roller coaster of emotions the OP went through. But thankfully, everyone seems to have somewhat moved past this, and no longer have to keep this family secret hidden anymore. Our last post was uploaded onto the RBI subreddit by a Redditor with the name of Those Damn Giraffes on May 24th of 2022. I'm looking for a news article regarding one of the most disturbing nights of my life. Story time. A long time ago, I was living in San Francisco. This particular night was December 13th of 2014. I clearly remember this because I was on the way home from work, taking the Muni and walking through Union Square to my apartment. Little did I know, it was the night of SantaCon. If you don't know, on this particular annual night in December, everyone dresses up in ridiculous Santa/Christmas themed outfits and romps around the city. Seeing all the festivities and jolly people made me want to stay out later than normal, instead of just heading straight home. So, I sat in Union Square and called a friend to come hang out with me. Once he showed up, we decided to take a few laps around the nearby area to take in the sights. We walked around for a while, just talking and chatting up. As I walked ahead of him, I specifically remember him saying, "Slow down, Speed Racer, you walk too fast." So I slowed my pace to match his. A few minutes later, I heard a strange noise, like a plastic bag caught on a fence being blown rapidly by the wind. I saw something above my head, and for a split second, my mind thought it was a bird. I will never forget the sound, like a cannon going off. I haven't heard anything that loud since. It took my mind a second to process that a body had fallen onto the pavement about 2 feet in front of me. The building above was somewhere around 40 stories high. Had I not heeded my friend's advice and slowed my gait, I may have not been here today. It was a woman. Thankfully, there was no blood. No big splat like in the movies. I could see the reverberations going throughout her body a few seconds afterward from the impact, and she was facing away from me. I think if I had seen her face, this would have been much more traumatizing. I remember she had tattoos and black hair. I looked upwards and saw a man leaning out of one of the windows of the skyscraper. He quickly pulled his head back in, and I tried to count the windows to find out which story he was on, in case he had been involved. But given the circumstances, it was hard to be exact. My memory tells me it was the 35th floor, but I couldn't say that number is reliable. Also, he could have just happened to see her fall and glance downwards. Now this normally would be considered a suicide. No mystery here. Nothing to solve, except for a few details. I clearly remember the sound of her falling. The weird part is that I realized later that she never screamed. This leads me to believe that she may have been unconscious. She was naked from the waist down. Now tell me if I'm wrong, but if it were me, and I had decided on committing suicide, I would definitely have put on pants. Anyways, obviously my friend and I were extremely shaken. We backed up as some people started to call the police, and it didn't take long for one of them to show up. They questioned us about the tragedy, and I told them about the man in the window and what story I thought it was. Then, they sent us on our way. The next day, I went to the hotel. It was the Grand Hyatt near Union Square in San Francisco, and asked a concierge if he was there last night, and told him what had happened to me. I asked if he could tell me any details about what had happened, but the only thing he knew was that she may have been a transient, and that she had left her dog. Seems very strange to me that someone would bring their dog along for their final jump, but I've never been suicidal, so how am I to know? Maybe she wanted the company. Also, if she was indeed homeless, then how could she afford a room in a nice hotel? My theory is this. Maybe she was homeless. Maybe she was a drug addict. It's possible she was even a lady of the night, as my dad would put it, and she was in someone's hotel room that night doing drugs and providing her services. But then she ODs. The person she was with panics and doesn't know what to do instead of calling the police. And, incriminating themselves, they push her out the window to make it look like a suicide. Anyways, that has been my best guess. I have looked and looked for any sort of news article regarding the horrible night, because to this day, I still think about it and question what had really happened to her. I never had any luck. So it doesn't usually make the paper, but I was hoping the people of RBI may have better methods of searching. I tried posting this on Imgur a long time ago, since I wasn't really on Reddit at the time, and the only traction it gained was people calling me a liar. That didn't feel very good, so I deleted it. Now I'm trying again. I just want to know the story of the woman that almost killed me. I can't imagine what the OP must have been thinking, but seeing something like that happen right in front of you is definitely something that sticks around with you for a long time. One user, by the name of Cousin Strange, would offer the OP this advice. Hey, maybe posting this in a San Francisco subreddit would help. Suicides aren't always reported on, sometimes out of respect, sometimes out of lack of interest. If you remember the officers you spoke to, you could also try reaching out to the local PD and ask if there is someone who could talk to you about it, or if there are any records of it. The OP did in fact take this advice, and cross-posted this onto the r/San Francisco sub, which would lead to the first update from the OP in the comments of their original post. Update. A user on r/San Francisco found the incident report. It states mostly what we already knew, but I do have an exact time now. We have our first lead. It ruled it officially as a suicide. Included was this image of the incident report that provided the exact location of where this happened. And this is the Google Maps street view of the Grand Hyatt Hotel where the OP saw the woman fall. Not long after this, the OP came back with a final and major update on the situation. Major update number 2. On my r/San Francisco post, one of the officers who was actually there and the one who wrote the report commented, "All of my unyielding questions have been answered. It was indeed a suicide. I'm so sorry for everyone who had to experience this firsthand, especially the woman herself. Thank you all for coming with me down this rabbit hole and assisting in my search for clarity. May she have found peace." The officer who commented went by the name Gizzard of Odd, and their comment goes like this. "This is absolutely crazy, but I was with SFPD at the time, and I was one of the responding officers to this incident. I actually wrote the report regarding this incident. There was video evidence of her walking into the hotel with her dog, getting on the elevator, and going right for the open stairwell access. There were suggestions about drugs or lady of the night, but ultimately, she seemed to have gone there with only the intention of jumping. She was a transient, but that does not take away from the loss of a young life. The image of her on the ground has never left me. I cannot believe this incident has resurfaced here. I am terribly sorry you had to witness that and hear that. In our interview of others in the area, everyone mentioned the sound, like a loud bang. Feel free to DM me if you care to talk about it, or if I can help recall any other details. Edit. I was so taken back reading your depiction of the night, I had wild flashbacks. I completely missed answering parts of your story, and I hope I can clear them up. No pants. The woman was wearing a dress/skirt, which was still on her when she jumped. We believed that from the jump, the dress slid up, hence it looking like she was without pants. The last vertical column of windows are actually open air. We were told people would go to that stairwell and take in the sights. Allegedly beautiful view, but after the incident, I had no desire to check. I was told people would smoke there since it was open air, and although we never found the guy looking over the edge, it was believed that he was smoking on a different floor, and heard/saw the woman fall from above his location. The sound. She actually hit the metal/concrete trash can as she hit the ground. The loud cannon-like sound was most likely the combination of her body hitting the ground at high speed and her head contacting the metal top portion of those dark green pebble concrete trash cans. She was not staying at the hotel. We had footage of her walking into the lobby, to the elevators, and out the elevators on one of the top floors. The timing of the footage meant that she got off the elevator and jumped quickly thereafter. A few sergeants were grabbing coffee at the Starbucks around the corner, and may have been the ones to interview you. I will never forget the look in that woman's eyes laying on the ground. No one deserves to see that, and I am sorry that you were there for that. The OP responded back with this. This is incredible. When I wrote this post, I was barely expecting to find a brief news article, let alone the person who was there and actually wrote the report. Thank you so much for clearing up all of my unanswered questions about a night I will remember for the rest of my life. This has given me so much clarity. I had definitely considered that she may have been wearing a skirt that simply was blown upward since I can't remember her clothes at all. And now, I have confirmation. Although it's horrible and extremely sad in its own right, I'm glad this didn't turn out to be some nefarious act against her, but her own choice. I'm so sorry you had to experience this too. I can only imagine what she must have been going through. I hope she found peace. Just as the OP said, I too hope that woman found peace. I'm also glad that the OP was finally able to find closure from this memory that has haunted them for years. That's all for this video. Leave a like if you made it this far, subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one, and as always, thanks for watching.